In normal times, this company stockpiles 2 months' worth of medicines, but thanks to fears of a no-deal Brexit, they're having to double their supplies. Everyone's talking about a no-deal Brexit, even the government now. What does that mean for you?
Well, a no deal for us is almost a reality. Companies like ourselves have to prepare for the worst-case scenario and make sure that patients have the supply, the continuity of supply, both in the UK and in Europe, if there's a no deal.
The ingredients for their epilepsy, cancer and dementia drugs are all imported, and the finished products are sold both here and in Europe. You've been doing this for a long time, this preparation.
We've had to do that because our lead times are very, very long. If you look at the work we have to do in advance of preparing, even just for some kind of stockpiling, we import our product ingredients from Japan, for example. So the upstream work has taken a long time. The regulatory work has taken a long time. And even getting factories in place in Europe to be able to handle all the stock and the distribution of that stock out of Europe for Europe, all that has to be done way before the 29th of March.
The government is sticking to its line that a deal with Europe is still the preferred option. But in the last few days, ministers have admitted they're also planning to stockpile critical supplies like medicines and food in the event of a no deal and the chaos that would ensue. And that matters because 70% of the drugs we need in this country are imported, and just over half of the food we eat also comes from abroad. Some people have already started taking matters into their own hands. Tabitha is a type 1 diabetic. She normally holds 1 month's worth of supplies, but because of Brexit, she's begun stockpiling more.
Well, until 2 weeks ago, I was making jokes about insulin availability ending in the event of Brexit. But lately, the government itself is actually saying they're going to begin stockpiling medication. And I don't trust my life to them to stockpile the correct medication in the correct doses. If I don't have my insulin, I die in 2 days. It's as simple as that.
The drugs we take and the food we eat all come through ports like Dover, where even a couple of minutes' delay will bring lorries to a standstill. One of the UK's top supermarkets told this programme that while ministers were talking about stockpiling food, they haven't so far made any plans. And worst case scenario, the government hopes to simply extend Britain's leaving date beyond March next year. Siobhan Kennedy, Channel 4 News in Hertfordshire.
Well, I'm joined in the studio by the economist Andrea Hosso and from South London by Alistair Campbell, who's the editor-at-large at the New European newspaper. Alistair Campbell, let's start with you. The Prime Minister says that people should take comfort from these no-deal preparations, and the Brexit Secretary says there will be adequate food. So what are you worried about?
Well, just listening to that report, how bad and how ridiculous do things have to get before people start to realise that we are heading towards what I think could be a complete catastrophe? And the people who delivered Brexit, the politicians who made the claims that they made, the government now that has patched together this checkers deal that pleases nobody, there surely has to come a point where we start to think, hold on a minute, are we really doing the right thing here? And
right.
This is, you talked there about, is it Project Fear? This is from the mouths of government ministers now.
Right.
Now, it may be that Theresa May is trying to stoke this up so that people will kind of fall for her sort of plan and think, oh, well, that sounds like it's sort of somewhere in the middle, let's go for that. But the reason this is all happening is because within Parliament and within her party, they cannot get agreement around what Brexit actually means and what it should mean for the country.
I'll come back to the idea of whether this is good or not for Theresa May in a minute, but let me just put that to Andrea Hosso. Complete catastrophe is what we're heading for in terms of things coming in, supplies coming in.
No, I really don't think so. I think there are two things to this whole matter. One is Project Fear, obviously. And let's think about what happened during the week before the Chequers meeting, when big companies all announced all of a sudden in unison that they were going to leave if there is no deal. Airbus was very much in the news. BMW backpedaled right away. And Airbus was very angry afterwards, saying that they helped the government selling Chequers and still they didn't get the tender. Boy,
you think it's coordinated?
So I think it is coordinated. It is happening, but I think there is another. So that's a PR thing and we have seen waves of this happening before certain events to make a certain plan or a certain project saleable. But there is another part to it, and the other part is that referendum happened 2 years ago, and for a while I think this country believed that it would be very easy to strike a commercial deal with the EU because commercial interests are the same. And
the Brexiteers thought that.
Brexiteers said that, but not only. I think the public at large thought that it wouldn't be a difficult thing because the UK is a member of the European Union. Standards are the same right now, so it's not a remote third country. It would be quite easy to strike a deal if there were political will to do it.
And now we're seeing the reality.
I think the reality, and I'll be very quick, in 2 years' time, and I think we could see that a year ago, that there is no political will in the EU to strike a deal. So actually, I think stockpiling, if it happens, it should have happened a lot earlier. And I think it's always a good idea. I think no country should be left without any reserves.
Okay.
I think it's a very good thing.
Let me put that to Alistair Campbell. Stockpiling is a good thing, should have happened before.
I mean, the whole premise of that answer is complete nonsense. The reason why the public think that we should have been able to make a deal is because the politicians who delivered Brexit said, to quote Liam Fox, that it was going to be the easiest thing in history. We were told there was going to be no cost, there was going to be no pain, there was going to be no difficulty. And I have to say, this idea, what's happening now is that the people who got Brexit over the line, most of them running away, like Boris Johnson and David Davis, they now are looking around for people to blame for the whole thing going wrong. The European Union, I think, has been extraordinarily patient in trying to deal with a government that is divided, that is incompetent, that actually has not, in 2 years, to have a situation where it took them 2 years to get a cabinet agreement about what they were trying to do on trade, which fell apart within 2 days.
Okay.
That's not the European Union falling apart, that's the British government.
Right, let me put that back to Andrea Hosse. The Brexiteers are looking for someone to blame.
No, I really don't think so. Mr. Campbell is talking about politics and politicians. He's a politician himself. We saw very well what he was doing when Tony Blair was in power and so on. Of course, that's what he's saying. I'm not here as a politician. I'm here as an economist, and also I comment on the political side of it because
you're
interrupting me, Mr. Campbell. Please, we're not in the chambers now. No, please stop it. I would like to say I listen to you.
Let her finish, and
I listen to you, and please listen to me. Okay, that's why we are here.
Okay,
I have an opinion, and I have as much right to say it as you do. Okay?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, then don't point.
Yes, but what you do
my
is,
point is that this is about politics. This is about politics. Mr. Campbell is talking about politics. If you look at what's happening, the EU does not want to make a normal commercial deal with the UK because their political priority is to show the world that no country that leaves the European Union can get out of it in a good position and benefit from it. That's why, you know, that was quite clear. That was quite clear. And I'm saying any business that hasn't started to plan for different scenarios, which is what businesses do in normal life, has to go back to business school.
Let me bring Alistair Campbell.
Plan for all scenarios.
Okay, I promise to let you reply to that, Alistair Campbell.
Well, no, but this is, I'm afraid, what most of the people on the Brexit side of the argument do. Because it's all going wrong, they now simply denigrate the motivations of anybody who says anything. You said earlier, for example, that Airbus, so it was all coordinated. Like, we're supposed to believe you and Nadine Dorris and Ian Duncan Smith about how businesses run their businesses in the modern economy, as opposed to Airbus. These people are people making real decisions now that are going to affect jobs and prosperity in our country. I say what I say now, not because I work for Tony Blair, but because I think people like you have led the country to a precipice. You now have no idea how we're going to actually make the deals that need to be made, and therefore you're casting around to blame.
Very briefly,
Theresa May has got to stand up and actually start to lead this country in the direction it needs to go, which is not the direction towards this car crash.
Alistair Campbell, yes or no, are you stockpiling yourself? Yes or no?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Are you stockpiling?
I always keep reserves at home at all situations, and I really don't appreciate the personal tone.
Okay, I'm afraid we have to end it there, though. Andrea Hosse and Alistair Campbell, thank you very much.